The debates are over. Yay. Yay. We got through them. And now we just have 3 weeks of final boss fight before the election on November 8th. And this is sort of the point where, you think you beat the boss, but no, the boss has not had their final form. And so now we have to do that final form fight that is always kind of really annoying because it's always just a bunch of crap flung at you in area of effect attacks and all just lots of sound and fury. But when you really break it down, it's not that hard and it's not just tactical. It just hit it until it's dead. That's the part of the election we are at right now. The really tactical part of the boss fight is done. The kind where you have to jump and switch weapons and kind of stand on your head and shoot the glowing thing. And, apparently the glowing thing was everything Donald Trump has said on a TV set that wasn't in the final edit ever, apparently. But, the fact that Hillary Clinton managed to win a debate while dressed as Chairman Mao as the ghost of Christmas past is still kind of blowing my mind. As soon as I saw the outfit, I'm like, I normally dig the pantsuit, but you look kind of like a ghost communist. But, she's still won, because that's Hillary. I think half the electorate thinks she's a communist already. But this debate was, I always sort of look at the sort of after coverage, meaning the fight after the fight, as opposed to the fight before the fight, which is the pregame coverage, which involved a really painful, it was supposed to be a pre-debate debate, but it looked more like gay marriage counseling between Rudy Giuliani and Mark Cuban. And, Rudy Giuliani was kind of the, older, like, the metaphor doesn't work because Mark Cuban's rich too, but whatever. Aaron Burnett was in between them as they were like catfighting each other, and it was just not. I hope they don't do that again, because first of all, it potentially swayed watchers who tuned in at 7:00 because CNN has been promoting this for freaking ever. I mean, this has been a huge boon to CNN. They are going to sell so many more ads for plaque psoriasis drugs. Like, after this, their ad rates have gone through the roof. Those, new drugs are gonna buy so much more ad time. But the after show really showed that it wasn't 2 lines, like a lot of pundits claimed it was. The general consensus is that Trump lost on 2 lines. And yes, this is the line heard around the world you're seeing on the screen right now, that he refused to say that he'll accept the election results. Now, I picked this because you'll notice it's CBC News. This is the Canadian national broadcaster, and this was the takeaway up here in Canada, that he refused to say that he'll accept election results. And this is a big deal for us up here because we have a multi-party system. For people who are unaware, the U.S. has 2 basic parties and then a bunch of protest votes. We actually have 3 national political parties. And then for a while there, we had more than that because we had 2 right-wing parties. There was the Progressive Conservative Party and the Reform Party. They merged. But then we have the Bloc Québécois in Quebec, who somehow manages to be a national party, even though they only really campaign in one province. I guess they're sort of like the Evan McMullen of Canadian politics, but is it Evan or Ethan? I don't remember now. Sorry to people who support him. So Quebec in this scenario is kind of like our Utah, but, we are used to, and then we got the Greens, and then we got some of the others, but we're used to multiple political parties. So the idea that someone would argue the popular vote, I guess, is kind of bizarre up here, because up here it's our system is simpler than the US is in a lot of ways. And so we look at the US election with this combination of confusion and fear every time it happens, because in our form of government, it's just whoever gets the most seats in our version of Congress, the House of Commons, becomes the leader, and our Senate is appointed, so we don't worry about that. Fairly simple, right? So there's no Congress and the Prime Minister arguing or none of that. It's just, okay, you guys got the most people elected, so your leader becomes our leader. So we look at the US and go, this is strange, and sure, it works, and then we take courses in high school to understand how the US system works, and the sort of, and we're taught it's a system of checks and balances, and it's designed based on consensus, and it's designed to enact slow changes so that nobody runs away with the ball because it was done out of protest in, rule by divine right. That whole idea that no one is elected king. That's what we're taught about the US system. And then every election we are exceptionally confused because it seems that people appeal to voters by claiming they can fix all the problems with a Harry Potter spell. Right? Like, Trump kept trying to cast Avada Kedavra on Hillary Clinton, and it just didn't work. It, bounced back and hit him, and it was like, oh, such a nasty woman. And that's the other line that seemed to get a lot of play. A lot of people took issue with that. And I didn't even think that was the worst thing he said. I thought calling her a liar multiple times was worse, but apparently people are okay with that. Probably because it's Hillary Clinton. But I think calling someone a liar is worse than calling someone nasty, right? Because nasty is a matter of opinion. Lying means you're dishonest. But people took real exception to this, and this comes back to this issue that a lot of people have had in this election, and I have not spoken about before. I'm going to break my rule on talking about issues involving race and ethnicity and all that stuff and sort of stick into my lane, because I do think that in this case people aren't being heard, and I want to talk about this because I happen to agree with this just from listening to other people. I do not claim to be an expert on race relations, but here's my take, okay? It actually has little to do with race in the end of it all, but it surrounds race, so people freak out. So don't freak out. The big issues that have seemed to trip Trump up, well, that is harder to say than I expected, but they all revolve around things said to and about white women. The Alicia Machado thing didn't move the needle anywhere near as much as the things he was saying about a soap actress when she couldn't hear. And that soap actress happened to be, blonde and all the things you'd expect an all-American girl to be. And then people sort of erupted at this such a nasty woman thing, but not for the reasons I felt they should have been affected by this. And what I mean by that is, so what, he called her a name, big deal. People call each other names in politics all the time. Like I said, liar is thrown around a lot. And to me, I think liar is one of the worst things you can possibly call someone. It's one thing to say something is not true. It's something to say something is false. It's one thing to say something is a lie. But to say someone is a liar as a defining characteristic is, to me, one of the worst things you can call someone. You have to really have proof. And the people are like, oh, that wasn't very presidential saying that. But to me, it's more that when he calls someone something horrible, which he has done a lot, it's tough. It's tough talk. And you hear that echoed in all his surrogates, including his own children. It's tough. He talks tough. His wife calls it raw. But when it's given back, then that's nasty. So he says it, it's tough. Someone else says it, it's nasty. That's dish it out, but you can't take it. That's disqualifying. That, to me, is the issue, but that's not what people took for it. But there was more than that went on in this debate. And this goes back to the thing I said I'm breaking my own rule because I think it's important. Trump brought up things that invoked going to the inner cities and getting shot and, you know, the bad hombres line, which people who are not racially sensitive probably don't understand why that upsets people, but the point is it does upset people. And when you're trying to convince more people to vote for you, upsetting people is generally a bad idea. And it's good to upset people. I just hit the microphone, I'm sorry. It's good to upset people who are never going to vote for you anyway. You know, Hillary Clinton bothered to, you know, support Planned Parenthood because the very stringent pro-lifers are not going to vote for her no matter what. Nope, 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 nope. They bought that whole ripping a baby out of a mother's body, hook, line, and sinker, like it's a Japanese survival horror game. They bought it. They liked it. That's what they want to hear. They are never voting for Hillary Clinton. So that's not a loss. But George W. Bush got elected because he was very popular with Latino voters. And that was part of what overcame that general electoral college problem that Republicans face. And so things like hombre should not come out of your mouth if you're a Republican trying to get elected. But it goes deeper than that, because this is not the first time that Trump has thoughtlessly evoked race. And the fact that the Central Park 5 situation has not gotten more highlight in this election, it is something that gives me a lot of pause. And I'm going to explain why. I'm not just going to leave it there, obviously. The Central Park 5 were let me get it up for you here. Central Park 5, see? Central Park 5 Trump. There's it. In 1989, 5 black and Latino teenagers were arrested and charged with brutally attacking and raping a white female jogger. In the media, they didn't actually do it. They were exonerated by DNA evidence and a confession by the guy who actually did it. That wasn't enough for Donald Trump. He has said up until this month that they are still guilty. They admitted they were guilty. The police thought they were guilty. Because, you know, false convictions never happen. Bad convictions never happen. You know, Donald Trump's opinion outshines DNA evidence. This is the thinking. This is his explanation for why he will not admit he was wrong and apologize to the Central Park 5. Because Donald Trump took out full-page ads in the 4 daily papers in New York City back in 1989. It cost him $85,000 calling for the return of the death penalty because these black and Latino teenagers from Harlem, as far as he was concerned, they were guilty. They raped this woman. Now, if it bothers you to bring up race, don't think of these teenagers as black and Latino, okay? But to the rest of us, that matters, and it's obvious it matters. If it was, the white kids, I don't think Trump would have, jumped on it the same way, because this is not a guess, he hasn't done it with white kids. And it's been 14 years for him to come up with some excuse about how he was lied to or the courts were rigged and all this stuff, but he hasn't. He is convinced beyond all evidence that these kids did it. And they're not kids anymore, obviously, but they're guilty. They should be in jail. Worse, bring back the death penalty. He thought these people should die and continues to think they should die because he hasn't recanted his statement based on something they didn't do. This is not someone who should be president because he has to decide as president whether to veto crime bills, whether to put his support behind legislation, whether to confirm judges, whether to nominate judges who have a history of, bias in rulings. These are all incredibly important issues, far worse, and as a feminist I'm saying this, far worse than potty mouth things he said about women. It is even far worse than the fact that he grabbed some women allegedly inappropriately. I have had my ass grabbed. That is not going to jail for a crime I didn't commit, okay? It sucks, but we have to maintain scale here, right? And this has been an issue this whole race. Scale. Scale. And they constantly get it wrong. This whole WikiLeaks thing that people claim I'm not talking about, I've talked about it, I just haven't done it. WikiLeaks. Why? Because first of all, they're not confirmed. And when they start talking about when Clinton or somebody in her campaign speaks in a way that makes it clear, okay, that one's legit, okay, I'll talk about it. The thing about a public and a private position. That she basically confirmed in a debate. She did say in a speech regarding the movie Abraham Lincoln, she was thoroughly mocked about it. Okay, so that is, we can confirm that one. But some of the other stuff, people got all up in arms about comments allegedly made about Catholics, and a woman who was involved, one of Clinton's staff who is Catholic, who allegedly was part of this conversation, says, I don't recognize these emails. So, okay, there's fishiness going on here. So, these individual slights, what they called Jake Tapper, what they called Bernie Sanders, what they called Chelsea Clinton, this is not important. We need to wake up and recognize that politics is a tough game. You have to be tough to be in the political arena. So some bad names called in private emails is not important. Whether Chelsea Clinton was called a spoiled brat in an email is not important. And quite frankly, whether or not Hillary Clinton said in a speech, Abraham Lincoln had a public and private position, and I think this is a good thing. I know this is an easy thing to clutch your pearls about, guys, but think about it. Have you said everything you have ever thought? Have you told a person everything you have actually thought about them? No, well, then you have a private and a public position. I spend so much time hearing people say, I should stop talking about certain topics because there's too much blowback. It's not worth it. I'm going to lose viewers. I'm going to lose followers. I should stop talking about things I think matter to appease the masses. And then I see these same blinking people going, the Clinton emails, public and private position. Well, I'm sorry, people I'm referring to right here. You yourself was advocating for me to have a public and private position to feather my own nest. Everybody does it to an extent. Everybody picks their battles. So no, this is not important. Okay? What she really thinks about the TPP is important. I'll fully admit, I don't frickin' know. But is this a disqualifying thing for me? No. Why? Because I don't know what's in the TPP. I don't know if it's a good deal. I don't know if it's a bad deal. And I quite frankly think people have been kind of hysterical about that trade deal. There hasn't been a proper, sane and sober discussion about this stuff. But so much of this email stuff has been the appearance of impropriety instead of actual proof of impropriety. Now, jump back over to the Central Park 5 thing. This is signed, sealed, and delivered. A guy who will not see reason when there is literal science telling him he is wrong. And race is involved. And class is involved. It's not like these people were rich. Okay? His sons go out there and shoot frickin', what was it, a lion? They go on safaris and kill animals for fun? And then they think they're doing great things because they're giving the meat to the locals, like the locals eat lion? Like, the people who they're interacting with don't need meat from lions. They're earning money from the tourism industry because they're letting them come in there and shoot the lions and probably paying a pretty penny for it. They don't need the meat. They want the cash. They want that good old US greenback. That's what you can throw at them. And these are just not saying, and everyone goes, yeah, but Clinton bias, all this stuff. Not saying Hillary Clinton is an angel. Even though she tried to dress like the gingerbread man version of one at the last debate. I'm not saying that. I'm not fooled. But there's so much less bad there. She sounds like a grown-up when she speaks. She doesn't seem to need the attention constantly on her. And she has not even, and it would be so human for her to just take a crack at him regarding his recent troubles with women after he did it to her. But she was very careful to talk about his situation in what these women are saying if it's true. She is giving him the benefit of the doubt after he has called her a liar, after he has called her crooked, after he has said she should be in jail. She took the high ground on that one. And you know what? No matter what you think of her, that took some steel. And not the Chinese steel used to build his buildings. I mean, God, the guy admitted he used Chinese steel in his buildings. He used illegal Polish workers to work on his buildings. And this is a guy who claims he's gonna solve the trade deficit and dry up illegal aliens? Like, and his explanation for why he did it is, you didn't stop me. Using illegal immigrants is called using illegal immigrants because it's illegal. It's not that they didn't try to stop him. He just didn't get caught. Like, this is terrible. Or he basically admitted to breaking the law. He used illegal immigrants. Should he be locked up? And when you start going down, hey, stop that. When you start going down that rabbit hole into Trump world, you start seeing all these things. You see a guy who has broken the law himself numerous times. Improper filing on his charity paperwork, possibly defrauding people with Trump University. And I said possibly. There have been quite a few judgments against him over the years. Not renting to black people? That's against the law. But he's saying lock her up. Why? Well, that starts to fudge too, doesn't it? Because the whole email thing wasn't against the law. It was against State Department regulations. And I will not deny that. It's absolutely against best practices. There is something you have to realize when you work with busy, narcissistic, powerful people. They like to go as close to breaking rules as they possibly can. It is just the nature of being in those high-flying environments. Because if you sit back and are too passive, everybody else is trying to just not break the rules too. Or break the rules in ways they get away with. That is just, I don't like it. I don't like that element of business. I don't like that element of politics. I certainly don't like that element of the entertainment industry or new media. I don't like any of it. But that's the reality. And if I was better at that game, I'd be doing better. But that's the reality. I've seen it my entire career. And that's, as much as people say we're going to clean it up, that's what Obama said. Hope. They were going to change Washington. And everybody who says they're going to change Washington, Washington changes them. because Washington works that way for a reason. And it's not a great reason, but it's a reason. But no law was broken. Breaking the law would involve knowingly transferring classified information. Like taking something knowingly and writing it down in a journal or leaking it to the press or something like that these generals have done that have gotten caught. And that is against the law. There is no evidence, according to the FBI, who I believe, even though I think James Comey needs to step down, he overstepped his mandate with his comments, and it caused not just a whole firestorm and more headaches in government and more waste of taxpayer dollars chasing this thing down and doing hearings. Millions have been spent on this issue, okay? But he also embarrassed his department because now people have less faith in the FBI. And that's a real problem because the whole reason he claimed to have done it is transparency. Well, that didn't work. It was a bad call. It was bad judgment. And if he stays, he's going to have a hard time no matter who's president next, right? Because Trump thinks he's in the bag for Clinton, and he said some not nice things about, Hillary if she becomes president. But the point is, the latest general who just was found guilty of lying to the FBI. Now, there's absolutely no evidence that Hillary Clinton lied to the FBI. She may have lied to the American people, but she didn't lie to the FBI that they can tell. If she did, boom, immediate charges. I mean, it shows they're not afraid to charge generals. And, okay, they're not afraid to charge generals who are being effective in the war effort. If they're going to let anybody slide. I mean, Obama bounced a guy for saying bad things about him in Rolling Stone magazine. I mean, people do... No one's powerful enough to evade punishment. Look at Bill Clinton, okay? And be like, he should be in jail. No, he lied to Congress, so he was impeached. Or they voted to impeach. Now, what Trump has done is he's collapsed all that information into she broke the law, she should be in jail. And that's what he does. He takes 5 or 6 or 7 things and collapses them all into like this everlasting gobstopper of a story that you can suck on forever and you never get anywhere, right? It's just always the same because there's really no substance to it. It's flavor, but there's no substance to it. There's no nutrition or ever. It's just constant flavor in your mouth. But what do you get out of it? Well, yeah, it's sound and fury, but it's not actually the truth. And as president, it is not up to him to determine who should or should not be in jail. That is the role of the courts. And separation between branches of government is extremely important. It's not even up to him to create the laws that he will veto. That's up to Congress. And that's up to the Senate to look over, right? Senate overlook. That was a funny misspeak. But either he doesn't understand what the role of the president is, or he doesn't care. And that's the real issue. He seems to be running to be... Oh, I almost said something because I was back on Harry Potter and it would have come out real wrong. But not that kind of wizard. He's running to be emperor, the way he's speaking. And that is my real issue. And that all goes back to the Central Park Five. If he can't admit that these guys didn't do it based on DNA evidence, how is any regular person gonna believe they're gonna get a fair shake under President Trump? And that's my takeaway from the last debate. Hope you liked it. I know the Trump haters won't. I don't know why they listen to this channel in the first place. I just don't.